So from the year 2022, this is a pretty new movie. Everything, everywhere, all at once. It just cleaned up at the Academy Awards. It was a really big movie. It's very lots of stuff going on. It was very good. I get why there was all the hype about it. Sometimes you watch something like I don't get the hype. I get the hype about this one. I don't know if I loved it as much as everyone did, but I definitely liked it a lot, and I can see why it was so well received. So, let's get into it. And I'll explain the plot, but I think it'll be easier if I just read the synopsis of IMDb. So let's do IMDb first, which is irregular. I know we usually do Rotten Tomatoes first. But 7.8 out of 10 on IMDb, which is pretty good. And it's that's a fair rating, I'd say, for this. For IMDb, anyway. Let's look here. This is what I'm going to say is the plot, because I'm not going to go that deep into the plot, and others IMDb, but this is the basic plot, very basically. A middle-aged Chinese immigrant is swept up into an insane adventure in which she alone can save existence by exploring other universes and connecting with the lives she could have led. So that does explain, that is the basic plot. So we're going to leave it at that. It's just, there's lots of stuff going on. That little blurb can't really, it doesn't really explain everything, because there's so much that goes on in this movie. As the title suggests, everything, everywhere, all at once. And yeah, the effects, the editing, the acting, everything is top-notch in this. So I can see why it's so loved. Michelle Yeoh does a great job. Ke Huy Quan, who played Short Round when he was a kid, and he's now having his comeback with this movie, and he's in other stuff now, I'm sure, because this was a huge hit. Jamie Lee Curtis is in it. Stephanie Hsu, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, I could be wrong there. She is great. Everybody's really great. James Hong, who's in a lot of shit. He's in so many movies. He's had a great career. He's in Big Trouble in Little China. He's in this, obviously. He's in Wayne's World 2 as Cassandra's dad. Biff Whiff, who I'm finding out more and more. Apparently he's actually just been hospitalized, Biff Whiff. And that's not his real name, but that's what he goes by, so we call him Biff Whiff. He plays the character Rick in this, though. And he's in tons of shit. He was in I Think You Should Leave sketch recently. He was on the show Dave with Lil Dicky. But yeah, he's in a lot of stuff. I'm just going through all the actors that I recognize. Jenny Slate is Debbie the dog mom. She's not in that much, but she's good. I know her best as John Ralphio's sister, but she also does a lot of voice acting and stuff. So she's in it. All the actors do a good job. I don't recognize everybody, of course, but there's not one actor that's like, they're not doing great. Everyone did a good job. Here, this is a more in-depth analysis of the plot. Let's read this. With her laundromat teetering on the brink of failure and her marriage to wimpy husband Wayman on the rocks, overworked Evelyn Wang struggles to cope with everything, including tattered relationships with her judgmental father, Gong Gong, and her daughter Joy. She must also brace herself for an unpleasant meeting with an impersonal bureaucrat, Deirdre, the shabbily dressed IRS auditor played by Jamie Lee Curtis. However, as the stern agent loses patience, an inexplicable multiverse rift becomes an eye-opening exploration of parallel realities. Will Evelyn jump down the rabbit hole? How many stars are in the universe? Can weary Evelyn fathom the irrepressible force of possibilities, tap into the newfound powers, and prevent an evil entity from destroying the thin, countless layers of the unseen world? That is a good description of the movie, I would say. Let's see the box office information. I think this did well because there's so much hype around it. What? This movie didn't even make. Oh wait, never mind. I just misread. I misread I read it as 143 million budget and a gross of 141. But this was only a $14 million budget. That's pretty amazing, actually, because this shit has some crazy effects and so much is happening all the time in it. So knowing that was the budget, 14,300,000, that's pretty fucking good. That's impressive. And then it grossed 141 million. That's so awesome. That's very impressive that it had that low budget and grossed that much, and the way that it looks. That makes me even more impressed with it. Wow, and I was impressed before. Definitely. But I think that's all that I'm gonna look at with the IMDb page there. So let's look at the Rotten Tomatoes page. So this has a crazy high Rotten Tomatoes critic score, and I thought it might 94%. Okay, I like this movie, but I don't think it was that good. But you know that the critics all liked it, so I get why it's that high. 86%. I'd be closer to that sort of rating probably, to the audience score, which is 86%. Like I said, the critics' consensus, led by an outstanding Michelle Yeoh, Everything Everywhere All at Once lives up to its title with an expertly calibrated assault on the senses. Yeah, that's fair. Audience says, incredible acting, stunning visuals, and a really deep, powerful story. Everything Everywhere All at Once has it all. And I get that. I get that thought process, because this movie, it's also just refreshing to see something original, and this is undeniably original. Say what you will about it, but it's... I haven't really seen anything quite like this. There's things that I can compare it to, like a little bit like to The Matrix, because there's a big element of this where she's controlling the environment and using her powers. It reminds me of the Matrix, and it also reminds me of The Mask, because they use these powers to kill people in very silly ways, kind of like The Mask does. Not necessarily in the movie, because the movie's PG, but in the comic books, that's how the character acts. And a little bit, he still uses wacky things to escape and stuff, so it is similar to this still, I think, the movie. The Mask, in some ways, but again, back to the point that this is original. Although it reminded me of some stuff, it's still undeniably original movie, and original idea, original script. Let's read some of the reviews. Let's read some good ones, and then I'll try to find one bad one, because there's not going to be that many bad reviews of this. Exhilarating, funny, and moving. Their film is also messy, overstuffed, and a trifle exhausting. Okay, this one I agree with, because yes, it was good. But it does, at a certain point, it's really hard to comprehend everything that's going on, because they are throwing so much at you. It is hard to get everything, but the movie's so smart and well acted that even when you miss a little something, it doesn't really matter that much. But I do get what they're saying there, Tom Schoen. Here is another good review. Raising an ecstatic hot dog middle finger to the negativity of modern times, Yeoh urges us to free our minds and accept that it's okay to be strange. That's good. That's a good top critic review. Let's find a bad review. Can we even view all critic reviews? Positive. Here's some negative ones. Okay. Everything Everywhere All at Once is a steaming example of visual, sonic, and thematic noise. Chinese propaganda, oh yeah, here we go, for propaganda's sake. Vomiting all the time now, Hollywood pawns. Okay, I know what they're saying there, but I do not agree with that. So they're saying that you're not even allowed to enjoy Chinese films because of all the problems going down in China? Because yes, obviously there is. But I don't agree with that at all. I don't think it's Chinese propaganda. I think it's just a well-made film. There's a difference. The film, and here's another bad review. The filmmakers try to load the entire weight of life, the universe, and everything onto the movie. This is too many things on a bagel. But that's the fucking point, though. So I don't agree with that review either, because they're saying that there's too much in it, but that's the point. The other person, positive review that I read earlier, they were saying that they're throwing a lot at you, but it's still entertaining, and they're not even acknowledging that it's entertaining. So I don't agree with that review. Here's another bad review, because I'm more curious in the bad reviews, because most people like this. The humor, though, is silly and second-rate. The googly eyes, the talking raccoon, the pet rocks at sunset, the parody of 2001: A Space Odyssey, all those work against the cast of With It, instead of with it. I disagree with that as well. I think the comedy adds to it. One of the main things about this movie is she's jumping through all these different forms of reality, and the point is that she's so powerful she can jump in and change all these worlds for the better, which I think is really cool. And they show all these ridiculous realities. That's sort of the point, is that any imaginable reality is possible. A reality where everybody's fingers are hot dogs. A reality where she works as a cook and one of her colleagues wears a chef's hat, and there's a raccoon like in Ratatouille, but with a raccoon instead of a rat. The raccoon is pulling his hair and making him do stuff. These things are what this reviewer is talking about, but I think that the raccoon part is one of my favorite parts, actually. It made me laugh really hard. I get what he's saying, but I don't really agree. But that is the Rotten Tomatoes. Now let's go back to, and by go back to I mean let's go to, for the first time, my notes on the movie. Let's see, Everything Everywhere All at Once. So my first note is no more Google eyes. And that's something that review I was just talking about sort of mentions, that there's lots of googly eyes in this, and they sort of have a good meaning at the end, but I just sort of like that line, because Waymond is, Ke Huy Quan, who plays Waymond, his character is sort of, lighthearted, silly, he's trying his best, he's having fun, he's putting googly eyes on the laundry equipment, but, Evelyn is not a fan, and she gets mad at one point. He yells, "No more Google eyes!" And I like that part. It made me laugh. So this part is one thing that doesn't make sense, at least to me. Why doesn't the husband notice the new Bluetooths in her ear? So the way the movie sort of gets started with all the parallel universe stuff is that Ke Huy Quan switches into this different person. You can tell right away that he is like I said, like a different version of the same person, and he's like a spy going all the way around the room, and he can do kung fu and stuff, but he goes to Evelyn and he puts these mechanical devices that look like Bluetooth basically in her ear, and then she is able to start jumping through parallel universes with these devices. But she's in this meeting later with these devices in her ear, and no one says anything about it. Her husband, that now that he's back in his regular body, you think, because he's not the one familiar with these devices, you think he would have been like, "Hey, what's going on? Why you have these Bluetooths in your ear or something?" But there's no mention of it. I think that would have been easy to just have a line like, "What's up with those?" Be like, "Oh, these are my Bluetooths," or just something. Because that's something that I think they would have noticed. I know they're going to a meeting to talk about taxes and stuff, so they might have other things on their mind, but I still think that even maybe Jamie Lee Curtis's character would have been like, "What are those?" or something, but there's no mention of that, and I just think that Waymond would have noticed that, and he didn't. Anyway, moving on. Amazing fight choreography. So, this movie has great fight scenes, and it just looks really good all the way through the film. But yeah, choreography is pretty flawless. There is one part, and I think I have a note of this later, but I'll say it now, so we can maybe skip over that when they get there. But there is one part where they do this trope, but it's so quick that I basically let it slide, but I undeniably noticed it. For the most part, these fight scenes are good. They have it just believable enough where all these people are fighting her, and she's able to fight them off. But there's one point where it does seem like everyone's doing the wait your turn trope, where it's like, wait your turn for the person to fight so that they can all get fun. But it's just one really quick, like 2 seconds where I noticed that. Other than that, it all looked pretty good, but there was one point where one of the people trying to fight her was like waiting for a bit. It's like, why doesn't he just go and attack her? But very, very small nitpick. Moving on. A bit confused. It's a bit confusing, but not in a bad way. So the movie as a whole is really confusing, and I had to rewind quite a few times and try to to comprehend everything, but there is still some stuff that I just do not understand. And you could say that, like, with magic in movies, you could, because this is a parallel universe movie, you could chalk a lot of it up to the parallel universe things, like, okay, well, maybe this has happened in a different world, and it could be explained by them doing this in this world, and they don't know about this because they were actually in this world, and all these different things are going through my mind when I'm watching this movie. And you could always go that route, but it is a little bit confusing at times, but it's not necessarily in a bad way, is my sort of note on that. Let's drink some more beer. Wouldn't the cops also say that she can't smoke inside? So there's a point where Evelyn's daughter, in this alpha universe that they call it, where all this shit is sort of going down and they're trying to save the fabrics of all these universes, we find out that her daughter in this other universe is basically the big bad, the big villain, and she comes into her universe and she's smoking, and there's all these cops about to arrest Evelyn and Wayman. But the cops don't stop her from smoking. Like, that's the first thing that I think they would have actually done, would be like, don't smoke. But they just, they give her too much time to fuck with them and stuff. Obviously she's gonna win because she's super powerful and stuff. But I still think the cops would have said something or tried to stop her from smoking or something. But again, it's a little bit of a nitpick, so I let it slide. At least we're moving on. Maybe I'm not letting it slide because I talked about it, but we'll move on. I already sort of said this, but it's comparable to The Mask in some ways, because they make people die in really silly ways, and like dancing people to death, and taking or like pulling out teeth or something. It's all these, using these parallel dimensions to kill people in different ways is similar to The Mask, because The Mask has his powers, and using these silly things to escape or rob banks or whatever. So it's similar to The Mask in some ways. So this is something that I noticed because I'm a big fan of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and it is public domain music, but I pair it up with It's Always Sunny. It always makes me think of It's Always Sunny, because it's like the opening music or one of the cues that they use in the show, and they use that in this movie. And right away I was like, that's one of the sound bites they use in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So I just thought that was kind of interesting, and I put that on the note list. Gotta love hot dog fingers. So this is a funny thing that I thought it was just gonna be a throwaway gag, but it keeps coming back into. Oh, hello! It's Duke Dubhouse. Can we get a shout out for Duke Dubhouse? We're changing Stacy's hat. Okay, you got it, my friend. Let's go. Let's do that real quick. Oh, how are you doing, my friend? Ooh, welcome. Let's go. What hat should we do here? Oh, let's go. Let's go with the Canadian classic, the toque. Let's go with the toque here. Oh, we don't want to ruin her hair. It looks so good. All right, there we go. That's my Stacy. All right, I think she looks good in a toque. It's nice. Okay, there we go. We switched it up, but I'm damn diddy. Hey. All right. What's going on, Duke? So if you want to use them, send me an email. I'm doing good lately. I've found some lit tunes for a hip hop stream. Oh yeah, I mean, we're done that part, but usually it'll be 5 to 9 on Wednesdays, and then I'll be rapping 6:30 to 8 typically. But we're done that part. But you can always send me the beats while I'm rapping, and I'll try to freestyle on them. But my email, if you want that, I can put that in right now. That's the Beats email. Check it out. I'm gonna keep talking about this movie though. Keep on talking about everything, everywhere, all at once. But yeah, that's the email if you wanna send me beats to rap on. But I'm doing good. I'm glad you're doing good. That's awesome. But yeah, I'm drinking this beer. We changed Stacy's hat. Let's see here. What else? Gotta love hot dog fingers. So yeah, sort of. I thought it was gonna be a throwaway gag, but it wasn't really. They have this universe where everybody's fingers are like hot dogs, and I thought that was really funny. I'll send them in a bit. Yeah, no rush at all. I probably won't get to them till next stream, but yeah, I'll try to remember to watch them or try to remember to play them next stream. Especially remember if you come to the stream next week, but I'll probably remember anyway. Next next note. But yeah, I just like the hot dog fingers. That part was funny. And it is throughout, like, they keep coming back to it. I think that's just gonna be like one quick little bit, but they keep coming back to it, and I kind of liked it. And that was one of the practical effects. I think they actually have like practical hot dog fingers, so I thought that was fun. I need to touch them up as they are rough. Okay, well, do what you gotta do, my friend. I appreciate you. All right. I don't get the blinking red light on the desk. So there's a few things like this that I just don't get. And like I said, you can chalk this up to, oh, maybe it has to do with the parallel universes. It's sort of like plot armor, kind of like magic in movies. You could be like, oh, well, that could be in this universe, and this could happen over there, so don't see it because they're in this universe, or whatever. But there's one part where Evelyn puts like a little blinking light on a desk, and I don't understand what that is. That's all my note is for that. So next week for sure. Okay, sounds good. That would be awesome. But yeah, I just don't know what that little red blinking light is, so that was my note on that. The cops don't interject quickly enough when Evelyn breaks the window with a baseball bat. So yeah, this is another note similar to my other one, where I just feel like the cops aren't acting like cops would actually act. So this part, Evelyn is like losing her shit, and she's breaking the windows and with the baseball bat, and she starts acting a little crazy before that. And I just think that the cops would have interjected a little quicker than they did. It's a minor note, but it's still a little bit of a nitpick, but I still think that it was noteworthy to say. Do you want to enable dictation? Not now. I don't even know what the fuck's going on. Patient. Anyways, moving on. One very small moment. Oh, I already said this sort of, but yeah, there was one, like I said earlier, there's a part in the fight scene. There's quite a few fight scenes. So there's one part in one fight scene where the trope of everybody waits to be fought happens. So in a lot of movies, it's hard to get that fight scene right, though, I think. When you have one person fighting a whole bunch of people, it's hard to make it look realistic without everybody just like stopping and then fight. And that's what they do for 1 second of this. For the most part, they do a really good job with the choreography. But yeah, there's just one little bit for like 2 seconds of like, that guy should have been jumping in a little quicker, and it looked a little weird to me. So again, a little bit of a nitpick, but I do think it was noteworthy to say. So I have one last note for this movie, and that is that it has an emotional ending. And I am an easy crier for movies, let's be real, I am. But I bawled really hard in this. It's just a really beautiful story. This movie touches on elements of family and elements of, like, did you waste your life or not? Your existential being, and there's just so many cool things about this movie. And about the relationships in your life. And that was the part I think that really made me sort of start to bawl at the end when her and her daughter are reconciling, and it's very nice. And it made me cry, and I can't deny. I cried so hard too at the end of this movie, but they were happy tears, I couldn't help but cry though. Anyways, that is the end of that review. Thanks for listening. I do think this movie was really awesome. Do I think it was overhyped? No, I don't. I think it was about adequately hyped, because No, it's not perfect, but no, hardly any movies are perfect, except for, of course, Pootie Tang, and maybe Shrek. But this movie is very good. It was an original idea. It looks great. The acting, the performances, absolutely fantastic. The storyline, although a little bit complicated at parts, it's very good, undeniably. And it's original, and it's entertaining, and it's just a well-made movie. Does it run a little long? Maybe, but not really, because it's so good that it doesn't really matter that much. But it probably could have gotten cut down a little, but I'm not mad that it didn't, because there is a lot going on, and they do need a lot of explanation. So, actually, I do think that the length is justified for the most part. But yeah, we're going to end this review by rating this movie. And I'm going to give this 8.8. Because this is really good. It's not my favorite movie that I've ever seen, but I can't deny that it's got some cool shit in it, and it was very amusing and a lot funnier than I thought it was going to be. There's cool visuals. There's never really a boring moment. Always something to look at, always something going on. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. An apt title, and I'm giving this movie 8.8 out of 10 ducks.